So for those of you who missed it 5 minutes ago, I'll just show you what I'm drinking, just for some amusement. Yeah. There's always plenty on the shelves. So this is everything. This is all of it. There's nothing else. And this is nothing. This is complete and whole. This is completely empty and completely full. The emptiness is wholly full and the fullness is wholly empty. There is no knowing any difference between full and empty. The looking for more fullness is the game, is the story that most human beings play. They don't even realize they're playing. But there's no so there's no getting this. This is already got. There's no escape from it. There isn't anywhere else to escape to. There's no one imprisoned anyway. This isn't an escape plan. Plans are fine. They just don't mean anything. They just don't have any, there's no substance to a plan. Just the way I hope it will be. And it might be obvious that there isn't a will be to hope for. This isn't somewhere else. This isn't in another place, in another time, in another life, in another experience. In another state. Everything that is already. And that's why you often, if you've heard this message a few times, like most of you have, more than a few, most of you, then you've heard that it's hopeless. But it isn't really hopeless. It's just the absence of hope. And as you may have heard me say before, the absence of hope isn't at all hopeless, because with the death of hope, hopeless dies with it. You may have heard this is meaningless, but that's meaningless. With the death of meaning, meaningless loses its meaning too. You could say that all opposites just fall into each other, because this is all opposites, because in the apparent appearance there appears to be opposites, but they're all empty. The opposites don't have any intrinsic reality other than the reality that you give an appearance. So something appears and you say you know it, and you give it its value, its meaning, its purpose, but that's all empty. And if you talk to other human beings, it becomes very obvious that your meaning and your purpose and your values are just simply yours. And you tend to hang around with people who agree with you, of course, and dismiss those who disagree with you as idiots, because, of course, only an idiot would disagree with me. And so self is the root of all conflict. Just simply in that. Essentially, there is no conflict. Everything is just as it is. That's not in conflict. But just simply saying that it could be otherwise. So this, I mean, don't get me wrong, most selves would agree that this is as it is, but nearly every self would say, yeah, but it could be otherwise. And I've got a pretty good idea of how to improve it. That, that is the root of all conflict. That is the root of all problems. Problems essentially don't exist. There are no problems here. Life does not have a problem. I have problems. I have problems, and the problem, the root of the problem is they're my problems. My life is problematic. So this message isn't saying that everything will be as you want it to be. It's simply saying everything is as it is. I mean, it is outrageously straightforward. And whether you say it could be otherwise or you wish it to be other than it is, makes no difference, does it? Other than create suffering. That's it. And the suffering is, I don't want it to be like this, and I'm certain that I am personally empowered to correct it. And the biggest conflict is with other individual human beings. Because I have personal power, of course, then I infer that personal power on every other human being. So they could be different from they are. They could act differently. They could behave differently. They could feel differently. They could treat me differently. They could see the value of what I'm saying and agree with me. And in that, you could say all suffering. Perhaps the greatest delusion of all is that, of course, I say to myself, self says to itself, I could be different. I could be other than I am. Because I am this way and I don't like it because it's not, I don't feel complete. I don't feel worthy. I don't feel whole. I don't feel good enough. And there must be a way for me to feel that completion, that wholeness. Well, there's some good news and some bad news. The bad news is that you are that sense of incompletion, the sense of I am, and the autonomy, that the power, the personal power that seems to give me, the volition, the ability to change, the ability to control, that seems to give me the ability to change my life for the better. Well, the great news is you don't have a life. There's just life. There are not separate lives. There are separate human beings, but there's no one inside each one with that life, possessing that life, having that life, controlling that life. There's just life. Life isn't in parts. This doesn't have parts. It appears to have separate objects, but that's just the appearance. This is completely whole. And the great news is the inability to make your life better because you don't have a life is the great news. Don't get me wrong, for me, it's dreadful. It's dreadful that I can't make my life better. But that is the wonderful news. That is the dreadfully wonderful news. There is no one who has a life. This can't be possessed. This can't be had. It can't be held. There is no ownership. Ownership is illusory. There simply isn't anyone that owns anything. Sounds like I'm just going to go out and rob everybody because they don't own it. Strangely, that doesn't happen. I keep drinking. So that'll do for an introduction, whatever it's worth. Has anybody else got anything they'd like to say?
I would like to say a thing or two, Tim.
You would?
Sky here. It's Sky here.
Sky, hi Sky. Haven't heard from you lately.
Happy New Year's.
And you?
I am happy to participate in a drunken conversation with you.
It's not drunk. I'm not drunk, Sky.
You know what I'm saying, though.
If I get drunk in the next hour, you'll probably notice.
So one of the things that, just to back up the last thing that you said, there is no ownership. And I can totally relate. thinking about, the native Aborigine people who said, we don't belong to the earth, or the earth does not belong to us, we belong to the earth.
Yeah.
And, but then along comes somebody like Donald Trump, who owns half of Manhattan and uses that influence to, I'm trying to think of a good way to say, well, get into some type of perceived power. And hinging on that, part of this message that I hear is that our words have no value, or they're meaningless, or no power, and the same thing with thoughts. But then along comes like someone like Donald Trump, Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, whoever, who shaped worlds apparently by
Yeah.
their words and what was behind their words. And I know that this is in the dream, and yet the dreaming is still happening. So my question is,
Yeah, go on.
there's been the question, what I'm questioning is, I've heard you say and others say that words are meaningless, thoughts are meaningless, they have no validity, basically. And yet we're in a world reacting and responding to other people's words, even in the middle of this thing that Fauci says, everybody, Simon says, put on your face masks, and everybody does. So how can this be justified in a world that has no meaning? That's my question.
Say that again, because
These
I didn't get a question out of that, Sky. Say again.
Oh, so how can these apparent spoken words by certain individuals
Yeah.
seem to have such a strong response in other apparent individuals?
Oh, well, that's very easy to answer that, because virtually all human beings have a strong sense that they are an individual self who has control over their life, and they look to powerful others to assist them in what they desire in the world that they desire to see. And so if Donald Trump says things that certain selves hear and think that, oh yeah, that suits my agenda, that suits my morality, that fits with how I see the world, then of course they support that. I was a bit concerned at one point when you were going to blame, I mean, let's blame Donald for some things, but we can't blame him for the Aboriginal situation.
Of course not.
No, you know.
No.
And, you know, one of the great freedoms that this message is speaking of is that Donald could do no other than be the complete arse that he is. That's you know, he's got no choice in that. That's the wonder, that's the wonderful freedom of this message. Every human being is just being exactly what they are. There's no knowing what that is, and the illusion is, because I hold this illusion most dear for myself as a self, is that I control I control my destiny. I have power over my life. So I can't help but infer that for all other human beings. You could say that's the normal reality. Well, the great freedom of this message is, Donald, whatever you think of him, is being what he's being. He doesn't have any say over that. This is complete impotence. This message is saying there are no selves who are doing what they're doing. There isn't a doer inside each human being doing what they're doing. That's the love. That's the freedom. That's liberation.
And that's the part that challenges me most deeply. The me is that we are completely impotent.
Yeah.
That is suicide.
Well, no, for self, it feels that way. It
Yeah.
does. Yeah. And I remember that feeling very well, Sky. Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels, you don't take my power away from me. I'm powerful. Don't say I don't have any power.
And
Well, the wonder is that all the power is in impotence. That's the complete paradoxical nature of this whole message, is that just what you think, the opposite is true. So, how could there be, how could it be that powerlessness, which, the thing is, it's not powerlessness. It's very much like I talked about at the beginning. If that personal power is seen to be belonging to no one, there is no personal power, then the whole idea of powerlessness becomes mute as well. That just becomes obsolete along with powerful. There really are no powerful or powerless individual selves. Don't get me wrong, in the dream, as you said, Sky, in the story, it appears that some human beings have power and some have no personal power. Of course. But that's not really how it is. Donald Trump is just as he is just a human being. He doesn't actually have power. I mean, he might be a shit human being, but that doesn't take away from his humanity. Every human being is just the same, along with everything else. Everything is just being what it's being. I mean, it is too simple. And this message doesn't have an agenda about making life better. That's why this will never be popular. This isn't about making a new earth. Sorry, Eckhart. But this isn't, well, it's not. This message has nothing to say about what's to come. There isn't anything to come. The whole notion of if this happened and this happened, and if everyone awakened and everyone became enlightened or everyone became liberated, then the whole, the world would become a wonderful place. No, the world is the only wonderful place. This is already the wonder. There is no other wonder. There is no wonder to come. There is no beauty to come. There is no love to come. There's nothing going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. This is the only happening. That's the whole message. This is apparently, oh shit, I've used the A word. This is apparently happening. And what's happening is the only happening. There isn't another happening.
You are such a heretic.
I so am.
100 years ago, you would have been burned at the stake.
Oh, isn't it wonderful that I've not been crucified yet or burnt at the stake?
Now nobody can find out where you live.
Or in the UK, I'd be hung, drawn, and quartered in another age. Yeah.
No, you have to be nobility for that.
Oh, sorry, I wouldn't be hung, drawn, and quartered. I'd just be put in the stocks.
Yeah.
And have rotten fruit and shit thrown at me, and then just thrown out of the village and left to die of starvation.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a pauper.
I'm glad you're here today, Tim. Thank you.
Thanks, Guy. Thanks for pointing that out, Faith, that I'm, of noble stock. You spotted that I wasn't nobility, did you?
I'm an Essex girl, mate.
Go on, Faith.
You say nothing happens, And yet, on more than one occasion, I've heard Tony say, when this happens, phone me.
Pardon?
Over to you.
When this happened, yeah, it doesn't happen.
So why does Tony say that?
I don't know. Well, the thing is, okay, so to say something happened, you can say, I could tell a story about what's happened, but where is that, Faith? You know, where is that what happened? No.
But why does Tony imply that there is a happening?
I will emphasize, Faith, I don't know the inner workings of Tony's.
Really? Oh, shucks. No wonder you won't get
I
short.
can't comment on the master, can I? How dare you even suggest? Are you trying to cajole some sort of criticism of the chosen?
No, no. He is beyond
dare you.
reproach. He is beyond reproach. But
No, I'm sure if you ask Tony, he would say, yeah, oh, it happened, but it didn't happen. Well, I'm only guessing, but I'm pretty sure.
He's got a meeting coming up, so I'll have to ask him.
So if you ask him, so, you know, when that happened, did that happen? He go, no, it didn't happen. No. You know, because the past didn't happen. There's just this happening. That's all of it. I mean, that is all that is the whole message in that. There's nothing else to say. I mean, it's not really worth saying, but there we go. But the past, I mean, you try and find something that has happened, Faith. And you'll go digging, you'll go, you know, scrabbling through some, clawing at some old memories, and you're dragging it up, and then you realize, well, in the retelling of it, even if you're only doing it in thought, if you're retelling the story of what happened, it can be really obvious you're making half that shit up. You know, you've got a vague idea, and then you just sort of build a story around it. That's all history is.
Yeah. I mean, they say, don't they, if you're in a car accident, get as many witnesses as you can.
Yeah.
They all contradict each other.
Because each one will have a different story.
Yeah.
It's so true. That's why there is no happening. Just a story of what happened, yeah.
Right.
So if you wanted to divide in time, so there's what's happening, which you can't pinpoint, you can't locate. It's just as it is. You can't find what's happening because it's already happening. And then you can talk about what has happened, and that's just memory, which we know how, certainly with age, it becomes very obvious how unreliable memory is. And then there's the future, which is pure imagination. And where do they happen? Where does memory happen? Where does remembering happen? Where does imagination happen? Well, they're just happenings in this, as this, not in this. There isn't an in this. I mean, I heard that, you know, that there's this, and then everything appears in this. There isn't an in this. There isn't an in or an out of this. This doesn't have an in or an out. Just as, you could say. So everything is as it is, as this. That's it. And I mean, it appears and disappears simultaneously. So that's why there is no, I say simultaneously, we only have words. Simultaneously is nonsense, because simultaneously is a word referring to time. And this is the absence of time. With the appearance of time, so it appears that time, this appears to be moving in a forward direction, but this isn't moving. This is completely still. as well as looking like it's moving. All of these words, all the shit that comes out of this mouth, or any other non-duality speaker you ever like to listen to, the words, you know, to say what Sky said, because he said, the words don't mean anything. Of course they don't. This is wordless. This is utterly wordless. Words are simply ideas. We're trying to convey ideas about everything. I mean, you can't get anything more futile. The wonderful thing about speaking about this is the futility of it. That's why it's so easy to speak about. You can't get this wrong. If you think some speakers have got closer to the truth than others, you're way off the mark. And there isn't a mark. But there is no getting any closer or further away. There isn't anyone to get closer or get further away. That's the wonderful, you know, again, that's all the beauty and the freedom is in that. I know as a seeker, when you are looking, you can't help but infer that the one speaking about this has attained something or lost something. And if you could do the same, then you would be in their place. That's the ultimate illusion. There isn't another place. So although I can speak about this as loss, seeming loss of self, the loss of self is no loss. There is no self to lose. You do not have a self. That's the message. Not you can become no self, not that you can lose yourself and become no one. I mean, how farcical. There isn't anyone to become no one. Isn't that brilliant? I mean, not brilliant if you're trying to become no one. Pretty shit. But so there was no going from Tim to being no Tim. There isn't, and there is no becoming or unbecoming, because that's just stories in time. And you could play a game if you wanted. You could try and find time. You know, try and be aware of time passing. There's a game. So your New Year's Eve homework. Find yourself in time. Time and self are the same illusion. Because of course, without time, I don't exist. I only exist in my continuation. And of course, for continuation, it's totally dependent on time being real. Not this, which is both the appearance of time and the complete illusion of time, the complete absence of time. There is no time, just the appearance. And so you could say, in the same way, there is no self, just the appearance. If that's how it appears, that's how it feels like that. Yeah, it appears as me sitting here. But there isn't a difference. All stories of what happened, how it might be different, just more stories, which of course depend on, I'm here now, I will be here tomorrow, and tomorrow could be completely different.
I find your clarity very, very helpful.
Sorry, Faith, say that again because it sounded good.
You just talk a load of bollocks, mate.
Oh.
No, I find your clarity and simplicity very, very helpful.
Thanks, Faith. Perhaps I'm clearer with beer.
Yeah, maybe. And there's another thing. Your website is talking about Wednesday meetings every other Wednesday.
Now, my website is, oh, thanks for that. Faith's like a plant in the audience prompting me to plug. So I'll plug then. Nothing FM, as I've got, interestingly, they're calling it a show. I've got my debut show. Fucking hell. Sounds like I'm gonna have to do a song and dance or something. But yeah, debut show on the first Wednesday, second Wednesday of each month. Monthly they are, Faith, for Nothing FM, which is, if you haven't seen, it's the thing set up by Emerson and Noel. These two guys set it up, and now Julie Rumbarger is helping them a lot, and she's joined them. Julie, who helped me with the book. Yeah, so I'm doing that once a month, second Wednesday, and there is the link on my website. Yeah,
So
thanks. Thanks,
Mondays and Thursdays.
Yeah. For the time being, I'm going to do talks on Mondays and Thursdays still. While you keep turning up, then I'll turn up. Why not? Yeah. Thanks, Faith.
Pleasure.
Has anyone else got a question? Scott.
Yeah. Hey, Tim. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Scott.
That was a great intro, and I liked what you were saying about powerlessness. And I think that's like the speed bump for a lot of us. Is the minute I think that I'm powerless, there's two things I can do. One is run away. In that minute, like the world appears, and I make a place where I can prove that I'm not powerless. So it's just this way of thinking, of giving motives to people, thinking that things get done, making happenings. It's like I'm trying to prove to myself all the time that I'm not powerless. But then there's this, I could just take a step back and go, okay, I'm powerless, but I can love that too. I can accept that part of me. And in that minute, the whole thing goes towards where you're standing, which is, okay, I can accept that part of me too. It's like this inner resistance we have to that thought.
Yeah. Well, most selves won't even go near it, Scott.
Yeah. And I'm sure since we were 2 or 3 years old, we invented this story, this fable of, I'll show them that I'm not powerless. You know, it's like a game that you can't not play in a way.
Well,
but
yeah.
But you just get tired of it because you realize you don't have your hands on the levers. You can't really prove it. What would that even mean? Who do you have to show that to?
Yeah.
And it's just tiring. It's tiring and exhausting, and it never gets anywhere.
No, well, of course it is. That's why most selves are completely exhausted, proving their personal power. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But remember what I'm trying to point at. The absence of power isn't powerlessness. That's the real paradox. That's the great paradox. So the absence of me, which self says, well, I won't be able to do anything. The whole universe will collapse without me keeping it in order, keeping this life in order. And fears greatly the loss of that personal power. There is in the loss of that, there is nothing lost.
Yeah.
So you don't go from powerful to powerless. It's just not how it is.
It's like you accept powerlessness in your power. It's like you have it's like you just allow it, because not allowing it makes you powerless. Not allowing that you have no power makes you always a slave, always a victim, always small.
Yeah. And of course you can do personal work on that, but I'm not talking about acceptance or surrender. Because of course, self will take both of those things, both surrender and acceptance.
Sure. And make it a thing. Yeah.
No, as my personal power. So now I was trying to gain, and now what I'm doing, what am I doing now? Well, now I'm surrendering. And what else am I doing? Or now I'm accepting. Well, self will take those all day long and create a lot of personal power out of those.
You're right. You're right.
Unfortunately, that's just the nature of self. Doesn't mind whether it's taking or giving, or taking away or adding to, as long as it's doing it. It's the felt sense that I'm the doer. That's what keeps me alive.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim.
I have no advice of how to get rid of that.
It seems to shave itself off a bit at a time.
Yeah, the really shit bit about this message is it hasn't got any recommendation.
Yeah.
But it can't have, because it's recommending something for a future that doesn't exist. It can't give you any recommendation, because all that is doing is feeding your belief in yourself that you can do something to affect your life. So
in a way, it's more observing it as it gets thinner and thinner, and then kind of dissolves.
yeah, and you
Because
don't
I can't say that I did it. I could just say that I can
Yeah.
see it kind of come and go and disappear. But I think it did have to do with something with me accepting that I'm powerless, and I think that's the strength of your message, actually. And it's a big obstacle. It's a big speed bump.
It's a big obstacle. Yeah. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you so much.
Who had their hand up? Was it Anne? No. Where? Oh, David's got his hand. Sorry, Anne, did you want to say something? Sorry, Jean, did you want to say something? Jean, you go first, then David.
Yes.
Sorry, Jean. I inadvertently muted you. I must have been drinking.
It's all right. I wish I were. It's a little early here.
Yeah, sorry. It's, yeah, I forgot that.
I'll be catching up with you in a little bit.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so this idea of the falling away from the self, and as you were saying, there's nothing, there's no prescriptive message here.
No.
I'm wondering if then you would say that the falling away of self is really something that is just grace. It just happens by grace, that there's nothing I can do, there's nothing I can say. I mean, all my life, I've been somebody who has a list of things that I do, I tick them off, and then I achieve that. And that is one of the most difficult things about this message, is realizing that that is not the case. And so I sometimes actually wonder why I keep coming here.
Yeah, of course.
It feels good to be here, but I know there's a part of me that keeps thinking that somehow I'll hear something, or some energy will hit, and I'll experience whatever that is that helps me realize what I already am. And I'm starting to get the feeling that all of that is just the self telling me that too.
Yeah.
And that there's nothing for me to do, really.
No, everything you've said just then, that sums me up as a seeker. That's just how I remember all of those feelings, especially the feeling that, well, this is absolutely pointless. What the hell am I doing here? But then finding myself here anyway. So I would go to Tony's all the time, and each time I went, I would chastise myself for going, knowing there was nothing to get, and knowing it was pointless. But the truth is, I enjoyed going. It was just nice. It was just it was a joy, really. So the truth is, the truth is, I mean, what is there? What is the best of life? What is the best of life? The best of life is joy and love. And if there is no point to love or joy. It is his own point, joy, enjoyment, and love, and beauty, and everything we hold most dear. They're all pointless, aren't they? They don't have an agenda. Beauty doesn't have an agenda. Love doesn't. Joy doesn't. In fact, nothing has an agenda other than me. I am the only agenda. There's no agendas in life. Life's not interested. Life doesn't even know your agendas. You know. So yeah, you're not going to get you're not going to get what you hope for. No. You're just going to get what is. That's it. And what's that? Well, whatever it is, however it appears, whatever's happening, however this feels, however, whatever appears, whatever's seen, whatever's heard.
And that will just happen. And there's nothing I can do or not do. It will just appear.
It really isn't that, Jean. It isn't that there isn't anything you can do or there isn't anything that you can't do. It's that there isn't a you to do any of that. You can say there's just doing what is doing or not doing. That's it. That's all of it. It's beyond simple. So self will say, so this message is saying, and I've heard it so many times, I even remember saying it myself to speakers, saying, what you're saying is, there's nothing I can do. And that isn't what's being said.
There's no you to do it.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Doing just is done, it's the or not. It doesn't, and there's no difference between doing or not doing. Other than my saying, generally self saying doing is better than not doing. Laziness for me, in my conditioning, laziness was the greatest sin. So not doing was much worse. But of course, once you get into spiritual circles, then not doing becomes quite, much better than doing.
Okay, thanks. Maybe I'll go have that drink now.
Good idea.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Jean. Hi, Paulette.
Hi, Tim. Yeah, I have a question about what are all these bodies running around if we're all empty, and what's running them? That's my question.
Oh, good question, Paulette. Okay. No knowing that, is there?
Pardon?
There's no knowing any of that.
There's
I mean, I'm guessing, Paulette, what you've inferred, like all selves infer, well, it's me running this, so it's you running that. That's all. And it's just a story. So I tell the story to myself that I'm running this show. So of course, Paulette's running that show over there. And if I don't like Paulette's show, I'm going, well, Paulette needs to up her game and sort her show out. But usually I say, well, I'm not really doing my bit, and I could do a lot better job myself. So there isn't anything in it. So Paulette, the simple answer is, without the reality that I am running this show, this one here, there's nothing replaces that. So in the seeming absence of the one who was running the show, there's nothing in its place. So it's simply not known. And the wonder is there's no need to know any of that.
Okay.
The wonder is the only reason that I needed to know was I needed to know. You don't need to know any of that, Paulette.
Well,
okay.
It just feels like maybe we're all zombies running around.
Well, you can call me a zombie. You can call me a zombie if you like, Paulette.
No, not you. I don't mean that, but
but that is the fear. I get what you're saying. The fear is that then, well, if everyone heard this message, then everyone would become an empty zombie. Yep. The message isn't saying there's empty zombies. The message is saying everything is already empty. There is no becoming a zombie. There's just the end of the illusion that you are the controller of the life you've called yours. That's it.
Got it. Okay.
Nothing.
Thank you.
Believe it or not, Paulette, you have never done anything. The body called Paulette, as you know, in her story, has done lots of stuff. That wasn't you doing it.
Got it. Okay.
And empty is completely full. Empty is much more full than it was for me. You know, the thing, you're saying everyone is an empty zombie if they've got no self. Well, there isn't a self. So this isn't about the, people becoming something else. It's not that. There is no becoming.
Okay.
That's the illusion, that Paulette could become something else.
Cool.
So Paulette is exactly what she is. There just isn't, there isn't the me inside Paulette pulling the strings.
All right. Thank you very much. That helped a lot.
Oh, thanks, Paulette.
Okay.
Has anybody else got a question? I think I might have to get another beer.
Hey, Tim.
Hi, David.
It's a true joy hanging out with you today.
Thanks.
Aye, aye, aye. The sweetness of it is how simple it is. And you said it early on, life has appearances, but appearances absolutely has no life. They're just appearances. And everything that we see, everything that we saw, everything that we will see is appearances. But the joy is life is what's bringing it all. Life brings it all on. But none of this has any life at all. Life is the only source of life. There's no source of life in the appearances. There's no joy to be gotten out of anything else. Life brings all the joy we need. And it's there every moment. It's there. I can't deny it.
Yeah, but for me, here, David, there's no difference between the appearances. The appearances are life. The appearances are life. They're not two.
That's all the mind sees. Yeah. Thanks.
Cheers, David. You've seen the size of these bottles.
Tim, I want to tell you something.
Yes. Who's
Sky
that?
again.
Hi, Sky.
Right now I'm in Mexico and there are no Coronas on the shelves because it's New Year's Eve.
That's interesting.
So you're lucky to have it there. But going back to what we were talking about previously, I remember 20 years ago at the Y2K, when there was so much buildup of computers shutting down, gasoline pumps shutting down, everything shutting down. And I was standing on the beach of that evening 20 years ago, and I recognized the life in the ocean still goes on, the stars still shine, and actually all of this huge amount of words, amount of talk, amount of buildup of what was going to happen in Y2K never happened.
No.
It never happened. And like we were talking about before, all our words can amount to nothing.
No.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful freedom. When you realize that words are empty. There's great freedom because there's just freedom to speak freely. And of course, they're not my words. I mean, you may well think that the words that come out of your mouth are yours. They're not. Don't get me wrong, nearly everyone else will tell you they are, but that's because even the thought that the actions of this body, the words that come out, the speech of this body, the thoughts of this mind, the feelings of this body, that they're not mine and that I have no say over them, that they literally just appear absolutely unbidden, totally freely, without no cause. They are not an effect. You know, when you've told yourself so many times that, oh, she said that and I felt that, it's just a lie. It's just a plain lie. Nothing causes anything else. There is no cause and effect. Cause and effect is the story that I tell myself in order that I feel I know what the hell is going on. You don't know what the hell is going on. You've no idea what's going on. There's just what's going on. But me will panic like hell. You know, me shits his pants if it feels it's not in control. That's really what we're speaking about. And
I don't even know what I'm going to think 15 seconds from now.
no one does, Sky.
Yeah, that's what's hilarious.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's even better than that, Sky, because not only do you not know what you're going to think in 15 seconds time, there is no 15 seconds time. And there is no what you're going to say or think in 15 seconds time, other than the story you say about it. That's it. There isn't 15 seconds time or 15 seconds ago.
Tim, can I say something about
that?
that?
Is so radical. That is so radical, Tim. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For pointing that out.
Thanks, Guy. Who's asking me? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying to add to what Sky was talking about. Hi, Tim. It was, but yet we have very specific preferences. So there can be like a noticing of what I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
You know, and every me is different.
Yeah.
And
well, the thing is, you see, Heidi,
it's an obvious thing, right? There's certain preferences.
Every human being is absolutely unique. I like to think, you know, I can get a bit romanticized about it. I'm not that romantic, but I can get a bit romantic and think that every human being is like a snowflake. Absolutely unique. But we don't infer that each snowflake is, you know, controlling its own uniqueness and is controlling its descent from the clouds and deciding where it's landing. So we're no different. So we just have these stupidly large brains that have created the illusion of control. So yeah, it's not that me's are unique, it's human beings that are unique, Heidi. And in terms of preferences, they're just not your preferences. This is freedom for preferences. That's what this message is speaking of. Because of course, you may have preferences that yourself doesn't approve of.
Right.
I'm guessing that most of you can relate to that. So you have preferences that you've hidden even from yourself quite a
Yeah.
lot. Of course, you can't hide them, they're preferences. So the human being naturally, but you've said that, yeah, that's not acceptable. That's not the way forward. That's not for me.
Right.
That's just plain wrong. You know, depending on your, you know, your moral conditioning. Well, this is freedom. This is freedom from, it's not freedom from conditioning, it's freedom for the conditioning. So it's just obvious that, oh yeah, that's just conditioning. But really, this body prefers da da da. And you may well, in the seeming absence of the, what I would call the jailer or the inhibitor, which is self is, then preferences are just free. Now
Right.
that might sound
Well, it's like a noticing of something that the mind is going to, and then being, I guess, this ability to not have ownership over it, so not take it personally, or
yeah.
you know, whatever. It's just,
Yeah. But preferences, you know, preferences are perfectly natural. And really, we're talking about natural. Human beings are natural. Self
and
is.
it changes all the time.
Yeah.
Right? There's a noticeable change that happens. I mean,
Yeah.
my preferences, you know, 20 years ago, you know, maybe some are the same, but many are different.
Oh, preferences, obviously,
Et cetera, et cetera.
with age, seemingly, preferences naturally change, yeah. And so self says, my preferences have changed. I mean, they haven't. Preferences just
Do you
change.
think it's with age, or do you think it's with brain shifts?
I will say, so you would infer that, you know, this body, mine's had a brain shift, had a shift in reality. I mean,
It happens naturally, of course.
but it appears that that has not affected preference one bit.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
Tim likes exactly what he said he liked, you know, that Tim the self liked. It's just not, that's not how it is. It's not that you like or dislike.
What about the ones that are not what about the ones that you're kind of horrified at? Say those change?
Right. Now, this is not the forum to go into those, to be honest, Heidi. If I'm being, you know, totally frank, I'm not going to tell my deepest, darkest sexual perversions in this open forum.
Right.
That's for a chat just quietly, me and you. I'm joking, but you know, it's not that.
Right.
The thing is, there aren't any deep and dark anymore. That was a story told by
Again, it's unowned.
That was just a story I told myself. Nothing is deep and dark anymore. Nothing has this doesn't have depth. You know, shame is for me, and that's really what we're talking about. So I would be ashamed of some preferences. You know.
Right.
And I would be ashamed of some behaviors. I would be ashamed of some feelings. I'd be ashamed of some. So shame is very powerful in keeping me being a good boy or a good girl. And really that's how it feels. Yeah. And shame is very effective in keeping me on what I think is unacceptable behavior. Even shame is very effective in trying to repress thoughts, trying to repress feelings. You know, there's on a very simple level, I could say that.
But it can also help in guiding in, you know, this material world, you know, being able to notice, you know, boundaries and respecting, you know, or, consensual.
Well, this message isn't about being successful. No.
No, I didn't. I said consensual.
Oh, yeah.
Consensual.
Well, consensus usually just means doing what the others want you to do.
Oh, that's interesting.
Tim and Sky again.
I'm not talking about, you know, that because there is a fear, and me would definitely would have a sense of, okay, without me and my self-restraint and the restraints I put upon my what I'd call natural preferences, then I would be, you know, I'd be a terrible deviant. I'd be a criminal.
Right.
All of those dark thoughts. Well, they're their self. Those very thoughts, those very fears, are the essence of self.
Yeah, but they don't get played out if one is, you know, aware of certain, you know, I guess, I don't know. What I'm not sure. I don't really have words for that,
But what I'm saying, those fears.
I'm just asking about, like, after this, you know, if there's a shift that takes place in the brain, are these, I guess, are these ideas or thoughts something that is, you know, causing a problem, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Causing some sort of mental problem, or
yeah.
problem with relationships, or a problem with.
Well, the thing with problems is problems are only a problem if they're my problem. What I would have called problems don't really feel like problems because they're not mine. It's the taking ownership, like everything else that self does, taking ownership of problems as mine. That's really the problem, not what we're calling the problem, which is just as it is. As it is isn't a problem, but it quite often is a problem for me. So the root of problems is I have a problem, or I am a problem, or she's a problem. That's the root of problems, not as it is. As it is, I don't mean on a practical level. I don't mean that. On a practical level, you don't need yourself. There's no necessity for self to solve problems. Problems just get solved naturally by human beings. That's what we are. We're problem solving creatures. But I'm talking about the suffering. The suffering is I have a problem. It's my problem.
Right.
And of course, it's my responsibility to sort it. There's the suffering.
Right.
That's the root.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, we could carry on another 5 minutes because I'm enjoying myself. If you want to stay, so we'll go for another 5. We'll go for another 5 minutes. What's the time? 1:15. Yeah, I've just enjoyed myself. It feels a bit like a party, I think, because I am getting slightly inebriated, but I'm not pissed.
Tim,
I can still say inebriated.
Tim, I want to say, I actually appreciate the 1.5 hour sessions that you do on Thursday. It seems like something more comes through.
Well, the thing is, Sky, I've knocked that on the head. You haven't been coming lately, so I've changed it to an hour because.
Well, I know. I know, but that's what I'm saying. Is I'm saying I like the 1.5 hours because after the first hour, something shows up.
I couldn't give a shit what any of you lot like. It's me who's doing the talking.
And me that's doing the listening. And I also want to say I'm taking up smoking as my New Year's resolution.
Everyone needs to take up smoking, roll-ups for their New Year's.
If it doesn't work right away, you can start with the patches. That'll get the nicotine going.
Yeah, you need that nicotine buzz.
Yeah, I started vaping. Vaping is fun.
Yeah. No, I'm not recommending any of those things. But of course, as a seeker, I remember how much I consoled myself in that Nisargadatta was a chain smoker. Once he became my favorite teacher straight away just because he chain smoked. And being a smoker, I thought, oh, I'm in with a chance. I must have a chance because, you know, I love smoking. So he did. So at least I've got something in common with a, you know, a great master. And I thought, oh, and of course, then I didn't have to give up smoking. So any thought of giving up smoking died when I realized that Nisargadatta, he was smoking to his dying day. And he smoked terrible, apparently just really awful, like really shit Indian tobacco. You know, at least I smoked good stuff.
I actually just got a poster of him.
Yeah.
Even though I couldn't read anything of it. It's a poster of him smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
And he had no teeth.
No. And yeah, I console myself. My teeth are whiter than his. Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure for me, and I don't know how it's been for you, but it's felt a little bit like a party. And I do know I've had a drink now, which is nice. You know, with the drinking thing, I'm not a drinker, really. I don't drink. I only drink socially. So I'm only drinking because you lot are here and it's a party. I don't drink on my own. And yeah, it's been lovely. Thank you. So cheers. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Tim.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Tim.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year,
Enjoy,
everyone.
guys. Yay!
Hey.
Thank you.
Have a great 2021.
Lovely, Jimmy. Yeah, and well, and hopefully see a few of you on Monday. Look forward to it. Take care, everybody.
Say hi to your mum.
Take care. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Happy New Year,
Bye. Happy New
everybody.
Year.
Bye-bye.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.